Greetings, Nicholas Sweetwater here, and here we are on our NAMM TV that's virtual, and we're here with Mike from Darkest Hour. He's got a brand new ESP guitar out, which is really exciting. He's holding it up right now, so without further ado, over to you, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend.
Oh my God, thank you for having me on Zoom, virtual, internet, whatever. And it's an honor to speak with you because you are a guitar legend. So
I sent him $5 to say that, by the way, folks.
No, that's not true. Those of us who love heavy metal know. Those of us who grew up around tab books know. You're the man. So,
well, thank you,
dude, I get to geek out about my guitar. This is so cool.
So you've been with ESP for a long, long time, but this is your first signature. What made you choose the arrow shape, and then tell us all about it? It's a really cool, sleek metal guitar.
Well, I'm very excited to tell you all about it. First of all, yes, I have been endorsed by ESP for a while. They are very supportive of young heavy metal artists and artists in general. You will see that they endorse a lot of artists, and I don't think you should take that in anything other than a hugely positive light, because they have been there for Darkest Hour for a really long time. And like you said, I have been playing ESP for a while, and I have been playing the arrow shape for a while, for a couple years. And what drew me to the shape is my first guitar I ever had was an offset V. But right. Then as my career sort of spanned, I really got into like punk and hardcore, and I was totally drawn to, single cutaway style guitars.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't until the middle of the band's kind of evolution to a band that added guitar solos and a little bit more shredding that I switched back to Floyd style guitars and V's. And so the Arrow is a relatively new shape to the ESP line. And what drew me to it is this. Now I'm going to stand up. It's a little awkward, but look, I like the off shape because look, where it sits on my leg means I can move forward on the stage or move back, and it never forces this. Like right. The King V shape, if you move your foot up, it forces everything. The ML shape, same thing. You really have to work around that lower horn, right? The other thing is that I think is key about this is that I can wear it at a reasonable level so I don't look like one of these dudes. Right. But when it's time to do these all-important solos that everybody needs the iPhone, you can just lock on your leg, right? And just really support and have complete access. I mean, not only do you look awesome in that stance, but you just can get everything. Yep. And so first of all, Darkest Hour plays a lot live. I mean, we're a live band, and we have a lot of guitar shredding. And so this shape, the way it sat on me, and then also the way that it allowed me to kind of evolve my playing to a place where I could actually play some of the stuff that we were doing is what drew me to the Arrow.
Right.
And I fell in love.
Yeah, I must say I really like the cutaway for the thigh effectively. So it's a comfortable sitting down guitar as well. It just sits there.
So what I was going to say is there is a really a big preconceived notion that V's are uncomfortable to play sitting down. And this is ridiculous because this guitar is the most comfortable to shred on. I mean, I have, as you can see behind me, every guitar shape imaginable. I've been lucky enough, blessed enough to be able to tinker with and play with. And so let me tell you, when you have a room full of guitars, but you can only play one at a time. Maybe if you're Michelangelo Votto, you can do two, but me, like I can only play one at a time. And so I'm drawn to this one just because it's so comfortable and I can reach everything.
Well, the cool thing is, like, I'm just watching you now, like you aren't having to support the weight of the guitar with either arm, and you're not having to pinch your knees together like you do on a normal V to lock it Schenker style.
No, and so it's a Schenker style, so we are obsessed with live DVDs. Obviously we love the Big Four and we love Pantera and all the heavy metal greats. Even though we also share influences with like more modern heavy metal too. But we'll dissect, like we'll go watch old Pantera videos and you'll see how Dime would shift to get that to why he would use that ML to move, to have that stability. And this kind of builds on that to me, but in a way that adds the accessibility and we can get into all these other things about switches and all that stuff, but in general, the Arrow, this is a seriously amazing design from the people at ESP, and that's why my guitar is, first of all, just the Arrow design straight up with a reverse headstock, because there was nothing that needed to change with that. Yeah, but as we get into the details, there is a lot that's unique about this specific Arrow.
Right, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So mahogany body, right, with a maple cap.
Yes, sir, and ebony fretboard, so this is a dense dense V.
Right.
You know, it's not super heavy, but it is dense sounding. You know, even the LTD version, you know, I have the custom shop and this is the LTD, and they're both very dense wood, which is what I want, you know, because I want that tone.
Yep.
And since I am maybe second generation Van Halen fan, meaning that Dime existed and almost was like my generation's Eddie Van Halen.
Right.
I am into the floating Floyd, you know,
as opposed to
or as opposed to sitting on and only going down Fender style, you know. So this kind of makes it really important to have the right wood, because once you lose that ability for the pickup to pick up those tonal qualities, it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very cool. And the neck is also a 3-piece mahogany, so it's dense from head to tail.
And it's neck through, right?
Yep.
And I've always been a big fan of the reverse headstock. I think if you're into metal and you're a geek and you're into guitars, you know, you get why the reverse headstock's cool. And so I had to have that. You know, chrome hardware, because I really wanted this V to have more of a different feel than some of the Vs you might see in online right now. Like that, you know, I'm not trying to go for something that isn't, you know, heavy metal, but I wanted something that maybe popped more. Like, you know, the purples and the reds and the blacks don't do it for me the way that this color does.
White really pops.
But yeah, I was skipping ahead. That's why I chose the chrome, was because we went with Olympic white for the finish, and it's a little hard to tell with zoom, but like this pickup ring matches the binding. It's a little bit off color with this.
Oh, cool. And
this is to match like another guitar that was sort of like my known guitar for a while, but I liked the color, but this is sort of like those ideas sort of manifested, you know. In a lot of ways, that's what this guitar is, sort of my guitar journey. You have some of the classic single cutaway elements in here, and then you have you know, some whole new things that kind of bring it together, because you never have like the F spacing because of the Floyd on any kind of like almost any single cutaway guitar. And if you do, what you end up is with the fretboard changes, and then it doesn't feel like a normal single cutaway, and you're confused and you don't know. And that's what this guitar has. It just is what it is. Right. And it is perfect.
And I really like the block inlays, which is once again a throwback to the older world, the vintage world. So it's a nice mix of modern and old and new.
And it helps you see, because like I said, we play a lot. We play a lot on stage, and there's a lot of lights going. Right. And I know that there are a lot of people that are into these guitars that have no fret markings, you know, or they just mark here, which I get, but like I need to see, because I'm doing a lot of moving around. I'm like giving people high fives and spitting on them and doing whatever. So I want to be able to see this fretboard and know where I'm at, so that when everybody's iPhoning me, I don't mess up. So I got the big. This is where we're at. Yeah, and it does look vintage, so that helps, you know. And I think the other thing that's kind of unique, it really stands out, is there's just one knob to rule them all down here, just one volume knob.
Yep,
you know,
just one pickup.
And it's funny, before I was a professional heavy metal musician, I was a bike messenger. That was before the internet. We drive all around the city here in DC with our bikes, delivering packages, and we would soup our bikes up to the point that they had no gears, no brakes, they had nothing. You could slam them against a wall, get on that bike, no problems. And this guitar is sort of like my messenger bike, where it's just made to take abuse and get out there, you know. So I don't have time for a switch to get moved, to get bumped, to get broken, you know. I don't have any need for a tone knob, although I do highly respect players, you know, Angus Young, Malcolm Young, Hendrix, you know, guys that use the tonal knob to really adjust things. I mean, I'm playing with so much gain, I don't need that.
Right. Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, I think that's kind of like the, you know.
Yeah, the one thing we haven't discussed, that the one pickup is actually the Het model as well, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. So you're right. That is also another very important aspect of this guitar, which is that the pickup we chose is the EMG James Hetfield. And why that's so important is, on the last record, we had what I considered, the recording of our last record, we had what I considered the most ultimate EMG pickup showdown of all time. Now, EMG has made a lot of these pickups kind of plug and play.
Right.
And so are the Duncans, to the point where I'm not quite sure if they plug and play and replace, whether we went between two guitars, but we really shot it out because we were obsessed with like the Duncan Jeff Beck pickup for a while. And I have loved the Lawrence, 500 XL or ML, or it's the XL, the Lawrence 500 XL, the dime bag pickup.
Right.
That has been the pickup I've been obsessed trying to figure out why was that dimes, but it's always just too twangy in every guitar I put it in.
Yeah, it's got a lot of highs. Yeah.
So with the producer, we had this argument: Jeff Beck, Duncan, Bill Lawrence, or any EMG. I mean, that's pretty much the tonal spectrum. So we had to have this throwdown of what we wanted to get. And it's not like I gravitated to the Hetfield for any other reason other than, man, when we put it in every guitar, it was like that sonic clarity opened up. And I was like, this is it, And then we were taking this one pickup on the record and shifting it in guitars as we went.
Really?
Just because we didn't have time to go figure out how to, it's not that easy to find all the time. We were in Salem. So it made more sense for us at that point to just switch the same pickup out, which is insane. And so anyway, it was a pretty big journey that got us to the point that this is the EMG, regardless of the fact that it's got the King's name on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Riff Master General. It also won the taste test.
And that's funny that you were using one pickup in several guitars. That's not the norm, but that's funny.
It's a pain when you're talking about Floyds.
Yeah.
But luckily
especially
we have
floating Floyds,
Yes. Well, we have some really good friends at Ernie Ball who provided us with a lot of strings that we were able to torture to do that. And we have a lot of people in the band who grew up and love Floyd Roses. I mean, this is our religion, you know? So while this scares people and intimidates some people, the level of attention that has to go into changing, I mean, no other bridge. Not that any lead singer ever wants you to do that, but just the ability to have all this expressiveness is what I kind of it really, the Floyd plus the Hetfield is kind of the center of the tone down here.
Yeah, plus that big chunk of mahogany all the way through from neck to tip. So yeah, no, it all makes sense. And the one thing I do like about the guitar a lot is, apart from its simplicity, like you said, it's a messenger bike in guitar form, effectively, which is really funny. But it's true.
Yeah, it's a big scare.
It's stealth. The thing, the cutaway that enables you to get all the way down to the 24th is really cool.
So this is a total Darkest Hour lead. It's very similar to, also we're big fans of throwing a little wah on there to give it that kind of thing that filter that Zach or Dime would use.
Yeah, that's the Zach thing. Zachism.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, a lot of the things about why is this designed this way is really to give you full access. We grew up kind of around, and this kind of gets into influences, but this kind of neoclassical guitar playing that sort of happened, and Randy was the King, was the one who introduced me that, and so we kind of took elements of that, of all that stuff, and you need to rip all up and down this fretboard to be able to get to some of the, to be able to get to all that.
Yeah,
what I mean?
That's what you can't help but notice that you mentioned Sweden before we started talking. There's you can hear some In Flames influence, some At the Gates influence in what you do, and because they're European, maybe there's they have the Ulrich Roth, Michael Schenker kind of influence, which and also Blackmore, which was kind of the precursor to Randy and of course Mr. Malmsteen and everyone else, Alexei, may he rest in peace. All of that great stuff. They were kind of the guys who, in my opinion, wrote the menu from which these guys perfected their dishes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that's interesting about Darkest Hour is because of, I think, where we fit in the timeline, we grew up on the classics. My top 10 guitar heroes are probably everyone's who grew up reading Guitar World at the age I was at, But then I was introduced to this new wave of Swedish heavy metal. So like Anders from At the Gates, Jesper from In Flames, Peter from Soilwork. I mean, these became my new guitar heroes because they had riffs and they had songs that pulled me in.
Right.
But while everybody was like emulating Pantera, I didn't hear a lot of like what I loved the most, which was like the solos. You know what I mean? It was the riffs, but I didn't connect so much with the southernness of everything. But I really connected with the solo vibes of things. And so where the bands that we mentioned, the Swedish bands, maybe were smart enough to know that they didn't want to get into this game of Guitar Olympics. Right. We were, I think, maybe in the bubble of the American metal hardcore movement, where we were playing shows every night, trying to stand out, trying to pop out in the way that some of our peers like Unearth or Bleeding Through or Every Time I Die or these bands from this generation sort of had to develop a hybrid of all those influences we did too. Right. And so that's why you kind of, with Darkest Hour, you listen to it and you're like, wow, this sounds like At the Gates. This sounds like In Flames. That's kind of cool. But it also sounds like way more distinctly American for some weird reason. And then when the solos come up, it's like, this is totally different vibe than what's going on, because whereas Children of Bodom would be more neoclassical, some of these bands have gravitated away from that and gone almost more electronic. Let me try to play you what I'm talking about a little bit rather than just talking about it. So I've got a little bit of a lead guitar sound going here with some delays, to help me out.
Right.
And so there would be some really cool classical stuff that would be popping in and out of Randy's solos that I really absorbed when I was a kid. That is the run in Over the Mountain.
Oh, it's a classic, yeah.
And I grew up at this certain time where the movie Crossroads with Steve Vai and Ralph Macchio was super popular. And this whole little classical run that he does when he battles the devil. I mean, that probably influenced us as much as Randy in some weird way, because we would watch the movie all day, try to learn all that. And this sort of got us to, the idea that you could put these neoclassical almost exercises in the songs, in the same way we would read that like maybe Angus Young made this, this amazing little thing was just an exercise that he put into a song.
And now it's a huge hit, yeah.
And I can never play it. So we kind of, we have 2 albums that were produced by Devin Townsend, a guitar god. So Devin basically taught us that we could put exercises in songs and it could actually be musical. And we have a song called Sound Surrender. It's pretty popular off of Undoing Ruin that has this kind of same thing. And it's even got these 3-string arpeggios. Which nowadays may be a little passé, but at the time was, guitar shredding, and it was neoclassical, and it was homage to all these things that we love. And to this day, it's still one of the more exciting things that happened during the set, some of this guitar wizardry. So we really credit Randy and the whole Yngwie, the whole neoclassical movement for putting that into our brain, that we could interject that into our musicality, that along with, of course, the greats. Dimebag is one that I talk about all the time, but same with Eddie Van Halen. And there's a whole bunch of things that they do that are kind of like, features that I'm not saying. Well, yeah, okay, so that's a perfect one.
Yeah.
I've got my dime sound now with little delay and wah.
Right.
And so first of all, Dime and Eddie would do symmetrical runs up the neck.
Yep, Cowboys. All that good stuff.
And so we love symmetrical runs because they allow you to really shred.
Right.
Also, I had never really seen this long stretch thing, but man, when I was a kid, like
Well done. That was good, man.
This is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also what he does when he doubles back. That's awesome stuff, you know? And so we wanted to emulate that. Also, like, I love this Ice Cream Man solo by Van Halen. That is super hard. It's a crazy stretch. And I mean, that one is really hard to do, but they all inspired us to do things like, you know, this is a Darkest Hour one where it's like, we're in drop, so we kind of have to shift, but, you know, I'll play it slow. It's like... So it's a symmetrical run and a long stretch. Like,
right, yeah.
You know, so then when you get low legato-y, it's like, kind of has that vibe. You know, and
that works, man, yeah.
We love that type of stuff, you know, and also the way that Dime and Zach and everybody would bend and be really expressive.
Right.
I don't think people really realize how much the Floyd helps. I mean, I know Zach doesn't, he uses a hardtail, but like for me, when I bend up, it's really pulling this slightly, which makes it just juicier, you know, more responsive, you know, and so that's why I love the bar. Okay. In a lot of ways, like when Dime would in this Love would do something like, you know, or in Cemetery Gates when you'd be like, you know, just little things, you know. Well, we love to do that into stuff. And of course, we love the Dime pull up. That whole thing.
Right.
I mean, my lead singer hates it, but I love to put it in every riff live.
Right. Of course.
That's my party trick. But when I was a kid, I was obsessed with how does he do that?
Yeah.
And I love when Dime will take it and add the pitch into the song. When he does all that stuff, that's like... And same with Vi. I mean, we can't deny that he isn't a king of the whammy bar, you know, the whole flutters thing and stuff like that. But these were things as a kid that highly influenced us. We've interjected in our playing, and now it's straight up is part of the sound of the band.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's also true on the rhythm side. Like if I switch to my rhythm sound, right?
Right.
I just got myself a regular heavy metal rhythm, right? We were talking about Hetfield. Well, a lot of what we do we have your Metallica style, but we do a lot of string skipping, like, you know, one of the interesting things about Darkest Hour that's different than a lot of other heavy metal bands is we have chord progressions. A lot of bands will kind of stick an E. Right. You can have songs that are just like, you know, but Darkest Hour usually has sort of a chord progression that's kind of happening underneath this. So you'll have like...
movement,
So you really need the clarity of each string to pop out because a lot of our riffs depend on this. But another thing that is super fun for us to do, because we're always backstage, we're always playing guitar. I mean, we're always playing, period, when we're on tour. We like to run through the whole set before we play. Me and the drummer and whoever's around will do the whole set, warm up on pads with little amps, you know, and we're always listening to music. So we're in C, which is annoying because I can't play any of my favorite heavy metal songs when I want to just play it. But what it does do is it challenges me to listen to these songs backstage, figure out how to play them in new positions, and then know where those note choices are when I want that tonality. So we were talking about Metallica. I mean, basically every Metallica song exists up here in E, right? So like Battery is there. whatever. I just butchered it, but you
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or here's Damage Incorporated.
Yep.
I mean, it teaches your hands all this weird stuff. And so there's no doubt that not only learning Metallica when I was a kid, but also learning Metallica backstage in a totally different
on the drop C guitar,
has developed the idea of the way riffs can be and taught my right hand more muscle memory than I thought it would know. And then hence hopefully given me more of a more palette to create from because I'm not playing the same rhythms, you know.
That's a great tip, actually. Try and learn a song in regular tuning on a drop D, drop C, whatever guitar, so it forces your hand into different zip codes you've never played before.
Exactly, and shapes.
Yeah.
And you know, another thing, like I said, we were touched by the Shredder Hand of God by Devin Townsend, but we've been lucky to kind of brush up against some greats. And one thing that Paul Gilbert, which by the way is probably like, you know, an alien, you know, told me one time. We were like, hey, can we hire you to like coach us? Can you teach us? And he was just like, look, man, I don't got time for that. I'm a guitar god, but I'll just tell you one thing. Just learn a new song or new something every day.
Yeah.
And at the time, it seemed so simple, I didn't believe him, right? Because I wanted to know if there was some etude, some crazy 3-minute long exercise I could do where I could learn every picking technique, so just to hyper, you know, make your practicing go faster. And, you know, he was right, because in a lot of ways, these solos, these ideas, they're composites of other things you loved along the way, in the same way riffs are. And so the more that you're learning and you're expanding the brain, the more you're understanding why people that you love chose that. And I have piles of Guitar World magazines around here. I still think there's so much important information hidden in them. And I was just reading an interview with Dime about how he was saying, like, he never got into theory the way some people did. And I relate to this because I'm around a lot of neoclassical shredders, a lot of really good guitar players we're talking about who know everything about theory, you know? But I relate to the idea that Dime felt, you know, in these interviews, that his solos were a more composite of things he loved from blues players and songs he'd learned. You know, the quote was like, I'd rather learn Randy than learn scales, because it seems like the cat's out of the bag when you know what the scale's going to sound like. And I'd rather just be, you know, in the moment and pick those notes and, you know, and I'm not saying that's an excuse for not knowing theory, but I am saying that in a lot of ways, the solos, the riffing, the guitar are a combination of these influences reflected out. And hopefully one day when people get this guitar, they can take that in and reflect out something new. And then you have thus, you know, inspiration.
That's wonderful advice. Yeah, increase your palette and then steal artfully, be an artful thief, I guess, and let this decide what's cool. I mean,
to me, it's the ultimate homage. You know, when people come up to me and they go, "Hey, you know, I never heard a band that had double bass till I heard Darkest Hour," and you're like, "How is that possible?" But then you realize, like, we've toured Nova Scotia, Alaska, South Africa. I mean, we've been all over the world, and we've told people we sound like bands. But sometimes these people don't know what those bands we sound like are. And, you know, we've had people say they've never seen someone play a double bass pedal. And you're just like, what? But that idea that there's so much more metal to be brought to people and so much more that can be expanded on with this type of music kind of drives us to want to travel the world, interact with people, and, you know, get on Zoom and tell everybody about this guitar, you know?
Let's listen. Thank you. And talking of that, this has been a wonderful demonstration. I'm excited about the guitar. Excited for you. You've definitely earned this right, because ESP is a great company. That's a great guitar. And you've clearly given it some thought, like great deal of thought, from the finish through the pickup selection, through its messenger bike likeness, which is a really great analogy.
Get on the street with this thing. It's ready to hit a cab.
Exactly. So, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. And hopefully the next time we meet will not be via Zoom or whatever, but face to face.
And I hope we get a chance to riff.
Oh no, we have to, because like we share so many of the same influences. So, talking of riffing, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you wouldn't mind, thanks again for taking the time. This guitar is available. Get it if you're into metal. I'm talking to those people there. You've already got one. Just play us out, my friend.
Oh, all right. Well,
and now play something good.
what? That is good, man. You're crazy.
No, I'm really flattered and honored by that. Thank you so much. Well, cool, brother. Like I said, hopefully our paths will cross again soon. Keep the faith,
Cheers,
my friend.
man.
Cheers.